Welcome to the first video in a new series we're doing at Chili Piper, Google Sheets for Marketers, tutorials on how to use Google Sheets, specifically if you're a marketer. And so the reason this whole thing started was last week or a couple weeks ago, I posted on Reddit and asked if anyone would be interested in Google Sheet or Excel tutorials specifically for marketers, and was really surprised at how much interest there was. And so we'll see how it goes. Instead of starting with a Google Sheet for basics of Google Sheets or Excel basics, we're just going to jump right in and just learn as we go, basically. And so the first thing I wanted to start, something easy, was a URL builder. And a URL builder, if you don't already know, is a spread. Well, it doesn't have to be a spreadsheet, but a URL builder is used to build URLs with UTM parameters, which is used basically for everything in marketing. It's the little things that say UTM source, UTM underscore source equals, let's just say Facebook or something. And it's usually there's a bunch of them, and it just helps marketing tracking software like Google Analytics or your CRM or whatever help identify where the traffic is coming from, what campaign, what type of content, if it's AdWords, what keyword, audience, blah, 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 all that type of stuff. And so using a URL builder is pretty much an essential tool for any marketing team because it allows you to standardize what keywords or words or whatever that you use to track certain things. So you can keep your Google Analytics instance really clean. It makes reporting off it much more consistent and reliable for you to make analyses off. So what you typically would do in building a URL builder is establish with everyone on your team what words mean what describes what, and then everyone can start using these in their job. So for example, someone who's doing SEM or AdWords, they would have one. Someone doing Facebook would have one. Whoever does the emails would have one. All that stuff, everything would be consistent, and so everything in Google Analytics would be just simple and beautiful. And so we're going to start with that. I've built URL builders at a couple companies already, and it's super helpful for quickly building links if you're doing any type of that work previously mentioned. So let's just jump into it. As I said, I'll cover formulas, I'll cover little tips and tricks, I'll cover the basics as we go. And it just makes sense to do it like this so you guys can come away with something valuable right away instead of something super basic like, did you know you can sum in Excel? Yes, you probably know that already. So yeah, let's just get started. So the foundations of a URL builder is the landing page URL. So let's just start with some column headers here. So we'll start with landing page URL, and have some notes on the side here that I'll just probably be using. You have the source. Is the source and medium are the standard ones. You have campaign and content, and I think we'll just stick with those ones for now. There's usually term if you're doing AdWords, but just to keep it simple, we don't have to. Actually, yeah, let's just do term. That is basically the 5 essential parameters that you want to have. And I think those are the 5 basic ones that Google supports out of the box. And then in the end, it's going to spit out the trackable URL. And this is going to be the column that has the final URL that you'll copy and use in your marketing campaigns. So let's get started. Let's start with one. I think I have Chili Piper logo or URL copied. I do. So let's start with this. All right. So we got the source. The source is basically the channel that you're working on. So depending on your company, you might do it different. But the standard way, let's say we're building a Facebook campaign. So this will be for Facebook, right? Actually, it's best to use all lowercase. Lowercase. So medium would be social campaign. Let's say this will be we're just coming out with a new feature, instant video. So we'll call that instant video. The content of the ad will be feature video. Term. So term is mostly used for AdWords or like paid ads. So the term would be the actual keyword or search term that you're bidding on. And for Facebook ads, what I like to do is use term for the audience instead of just leaving it blank. And so let's say I was uploading a custom list of our best prospects. We call them A prospects. So we'll just do A prospects like that. And so what we want to do is build a formula here that will basically add this, and spit out the nice looking URL. So what we're going to do is you can use a formula called concatenate, or you can use just the and symbol, and it will actually add them together. So what we want to do is say equals to start the formula, this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And then boom, here is our link. So obviously it's missing a lot of the parameters that define what these things are. So what we're going to do is actually going to change this heading, and we're going to say UTM underscore source, UTM underscore medium, and so on. Cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change our formula so it goes this and this and this and this and this and so on. So actually what we'll do is once you start adding parameters to the end of your URL, you have to start with question mark. So we'll start with the question mark there. And then this is what we'll do. So we'll do v3, which is our URL, and actually it's probably easier if we just start over. So we'll do and this, and this, and we'll just keep going. Oh, I think I need an equal sign in here. Yeah, let's do the equal sign. Computer's a little slow. It looks like it's coming together. We left off here, so we'll do this, 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 and boom. So hopefully the video quality is clear. I didn't check that, but you can see, or hopefully you can see that it looks like this is a working, no it's not. We need the and signs in there. Almost, we're almost there. So when you have in a URL with UTM parameters, at the end of the URL, you start with question mark, and then you can add in your parameters. And then to separate the parameters from one another, use the and sign, which is coincidentally what we're using inside of our formula here to designate that that's the end of the first parameter, and then we're moving on to the next one. So to enter, because and is triggering in Google Sheets, that it's kind of like a formula or a function, I should say. We surround the, you could surround the and sign with quotes, and that would tell Google Sheets that that's actually a string and not a number or a formula. So we're going to do B2 plus C2, or I should say and C2 and C3, and then after C3, so what we could do is we could say and this. Let's look at the first one. Oh, that didn't even work. It's because we have to have two ands, because we're saying and the and symbol and so on. No, that still didn't work. I wonder why. Does it need to be quotation marks? Oh, there we go. So it has to be quotation marks. So there you can see right here, hopefully you can see it. There's the and symbol. So we could just edit the formula and just have those in there, but that wouldn't make sense. So let's just put them in here after the first one. Okay. So it looks like it's working. Let's just delete what we put in there a second ago. All right, so now that is a fully functional, trackable URL. And that wasn't very complicated a formula. We could use a formula concatenate instead of all the ands if you wanted. Concatenate. And you could select the whole range to concatenate like this, but because we need those things up there, you would have to do it one by one again. Okay, that didn't work out. So you could also do this. It might be a little bit more simple and it spits out the same result. Yeah, actually, let's replace that with that one. So I'm not sure how basic I'm going to get in here. Hopefully you know a little bit about how Excel works. Basically, to do a formula, you put in equals first, and that designates to Google Sheets that you're using a formula. And there's all different formulas you can do. There's probably close to 1,000 different formulas. And if you just search in Google Sheets, how to do something, you'll always find a tutorial. Even the links to Google's product forums are really helpful. And if you're ever stuck, they also have these cool little helpful things. So let's say if we're doing concatenate, they have a question mark little thing here. You click that, and it basically tells you what this formula does and how to use it. So it's just saying for a concatenate, append strings to one another. Strings is text, so it appends text to one another. And so it's just saying for this first section, now that we're in this part of the formula, it highlights this yellow part, or highlights this part with yellow, and you know that you're on this step. So this is the initial string, say B3, and then comma, and now it knows that you're on this next step, and so this is highlighted, and then it points down to here, string 2, optional, repeatable, more strings to append in the sequence. So these little bits are helpful. So let's take, did not mean to do that. Let's copy this, let's replace this, let's do it the clean way and use the formulas. That didn't work at all. So why did that not work out? This is probably a good time to explain relevant versus absolute references. So if you don't actually know how a spreadsheet works, this is actually pretty interesting when I saw this explained to me. So when we're looking at this formula, this is saying, we're referencing this cell right here first, right, B3. What this is actually referencing is not the actual cell B3. What it's referencing is, oh, I'm pointing with my finger at the computer, obviously you can't see that. It's actually referencing the number of cells over from the cell that you're on. So when we're saying B3, it's actually saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells to the left and on the same row. So when I moved it up, you'll notice that it's not referencing B3 anymore. In the formula, it's referencing B2. And it's not because the formula changed. The formula is the same. It's still referencing 6 cells to the left, if that makes sense. So when you can take a formula and let's say you can drag it down. This fill handle will get more into it, but it can drag a formula down. And the formula doesn't change. It's just the cell that's being referenced there is changing because it's counting the number of columns different from where you are and the number of columns or rows different from where you are. So if I wanted to copy this exactly, you can just copy the actual formula and then paste it in there like that, and then it won't change where you're referencing. So we can delete that. So I'll show you another example in a second. So let's say we're doing another campaign on Facebook, and this will be the same campaign, but we're going to do instead of a video ad, we're going to do a picture ad. So we'll do, I think you call them image ads, right? Not pictures. And same audience. So if you wanted to, instead of like copying or rewriting this whole formula, you can use this little fill handle, which is this box in the bottom left corner of any cell that you're on. You can drag it down, and it's going to copy the formula down. And you'll see that now it's referencing the same. You'll see that the actual cells that it's referencing changed, but because we're using relevant references here, it's still the same formula. 6 to the left, same row, etc. And then obviously the different cells you reference are a little bit different. So that's pretty cool. However, in our case, you can see that the trackable URL isn't right. It's not bringing in the UTM source, UTM medium, and that's because we used a relevant reference at the top, which means when we reference, go back up here, when we reference in the first formula here, C2 for UTM source over here, we're saying, oh no, it's just 5 columns to the left and 1 row up. And so when we bring it down from that cell, it's 5 rows to the left, 5 columns to the left, and 1 row up. And that's why it's including Facebook again for C3. C3 is now Facebook. So what we need to do is make that what we call an absolute reference. And what that means is it's referencing that exact cell instead of a relative to the cell that you're currently on. So to make a cell an absolute reference in Google Sheets is just $signs before the row, before the column, and before the row. I swear I'm going to get this rows and columns thing straightened out by the end of this video. So the $sign in the C2 before the C designates that that's an absolute reference to the column C, and that won't change. And then the $sign before the 2 is saying that's an absolute reference to row 2. So I'll just do the first one to demonstrate what that looks like. So now you can see that it did pull in UTM source and it didn't change. So C2 is still being referenced here, and that didn't move as we moved our formula down. So you can type out the $sign to and before the D and before the 2, or if you can hit F4. If you're on a Mac, you need to hold the FN key, and that will run through all the different types of absolute references you can make. So just hitting it once, put the absolute reference on that exact cell. You can also do just to the row. So there's only a $sign on the 2, or just a $sign on the D. So we'll probably get more into this later in better examples, but you can choose what you want to stick and what you want to move. In our case, because we're dragging the formula down, you can actually keep the column relative because that's not going to change as you bring it down. Yeah, the column relative. But since we know it's not going to change no matter what, it just makes sense to do just the whole thing. Oops. The whole thing a absolute reference. So the whole thing would be a $sign before both the column and the row designation. So we need to make all these headers an absolute reference. And then we can drag that one down. And yep, so the first one is the video and the second one is the image. And you can double click the formula and you can see based on the colors what it's bringing in. That looks really nice. So let's just do one more. Social. We're still in promoting our new campaign. Let's do a video to our, let's go to our next level prospects, which are B prospects. And we're going to do another campaign. And this one is going to be the feature image to B prospects. And let's do one more for Facebook. And it's still going to be instant video. And this will be a testimonial. One of our customers like it. It could be testimonial video. Why not? And this will be to all prospects. Now, because the formula is built and the absolute references are in, you can just drag this down and these are all ready and good to go now. Boom. So what we can do is let's clean this up a little bit, make this look a little bit nicer. Which I'll keep that one there. Put some headers on here. You can't go wrong with the blue background, white text, bold. I like to do centered headers. One thing I'll say about formatting is you don't want to underestimate formatting, or I should say you don't want to think it's not that important. If you want people in your team to actually use your spreadsheet, think it's reliable, and trust it, and what's the point of making a spreadsheet if no one's going to use it? Like, what's the point of making a dashboard if no one's going to use it? They're just going to say, oh yeah, that's really cool, and then still go about their old way of doing it. I found that making a spreadsheet look nice is a good way for people to be comfortable using something that looks complicated, and just more likely to use it and implement it, which is ultimately what you want to do. You want to make a change in the organization, right? So don't underestimate formatting. And I'll show you some other cool tricks that I use to help make it easier for people to use it. One of those things, let me see real quick. Yeah, so one of those things is using data validation. So instead of having people requiring them to type everything out over and over again, you can actually create a list. So we'll create a new sheet here. We'll call this data validation. And we'll say this is a source, medium, campaign content term. And you can list out all the channels that you'll be running ads on or building links for. Let's just go with those. You'll have social. I actually don't know what the default ones off the top of my head are. Let's just go with that. You have different campaigns. So why is this important? If you build, let's say you have a campaign coming up and you labeled your campaign an instant dash video or whatever, campaign that you want to name it. If your whole team sticks with using instant dash video or whatever your campaign name as the UTM campaign and all the URLs that you do, you can go into Google Analytics and pull up a campaign report or just filter all your traffic by that campaign and just see how it did. If it's set up right, you can see how much traffic, how many conversions just from that campaign, and it makes it really nice. So I'll just put in a couple other products that we have. I don't know, brand awareness wouldn't necessarily be a good campaign, but this is just an example. So this is interesting. We'll keep it simple for now and say that, let's see, what do we use? Let me just copy this, put it here. Let's see, term A prospects, B prospects, all. So again, with the term, with the audience, you'll be able to filter all of your campaigns in anything that you do. So in paid ads, or I should say search ads, and Facebook ads, and LinkedIn ads, email campaigns, lifecycle email campaigns, sales emails, you'll be able to select the term, let's say a prospect, and see how all of your marketing activity did against that audience. So that makes it really helpful to spot things that you can improve in your marketing, is by having clean data and building a URL builder for your team and having everyone use it is one of those ways to do it. So what we can do here, we can select this column. We'll do data validation. And so data validation is saying in these cells, you can only pick a list of these values. So that's the range that this applies to. We'll actually just start it not at C1, we'll start it at C2. And the criteria will be, you can enter in a list of items if you want manually. I like to have a reference, referencing another part of the spreadsheet. And I'll show you why in a second. So this is for source. And so select the first item in your source. You can drag down to select them all right here. Say OK. Show a drop down in the list. Show a warning if an input or value in the affected cells does not match one of these things. Yes. Save. And now you'll see these little drop down arrows. So when someone's building a new URL, they know that they can only pick from these things, and then you won't get something that says FB, and then all your reporting would be messed up because it's not consistent. Or someone could put the Goog. I don't know why anyone would do that, but this helps just keep everything consistent. So it's just easier. It's very difficult to make mistakes when things are just in a dropdown versus having to type them in. And then let's say we added a new thing on our list, a new channel. Someone comes to you, hey, I want to start Quora ads. So you add Quora, and they're going to build some links, and they're going to freak out because Quora is not on here. So what you can do to prevent that from happening and just make your spreadsheet more sustainable without having to make edits and stuff is you're going to select your thing, go back to data validation. Let me see, is there a way to select the existing validation? I don't know. Let's just start over. So we'll remove all the validation that's on there before, just to start over. And this is only going to affect C2. And when we pick our criteria for what can be used as a thing there, we can just select everything down to a certain area. And that way, when you add in more items to your list, it's just going to pop in there automatically. So you could do B3 to 26, or as far down as you want, because you're not going to, however long you think you need to make it. Or you can do a keyboard shortcut, so Command down to navigate quicker. You can hold Command and then the arrow keys, and it will take you around your spreadsheet to the last value, basically. And then if there's no value below, you can hit Command down again, and it will take you to the very bottom. So what you can do is you select the first value you want to include in this, and then hold down Shift, Command, and Shift will select everything in that you're going down, and then just hit it again. And you have a huge range. You will never need that, but might as well just do the whole thing. It's not going to add a bunch of blank things that you can select in there. It's still just going to have your nice list, but no matter what, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to be included in there. So now anyone can build a core ad, or I don't know what else is there. Let's say Capterra, and it's going to be in there. Boom. So let's just do the same thing with all of these. Data validation, go D2, that's from range. Boom. Save. Data validation. Oops. See that campaign in there. Nice. Shoot. Okay. And one more. Nice. Oh, looks like I typed something in wrong. Eat Pressopex. I'm not the best speller right away. So this is what happens when someone tries to put in a value that doesn't match with data validation. It's going to show a warning. It's hard to miss, and people will know that you can't do that. And so let's just change this. Boom, that looks great. So we're doing a Google Ads search concierge feature image to be prospects, and then drag the formula down, boom. So let's take this usability and go a step further. We don't want people to have to drag down anything. So we can drag this down. That's ugly. We don't really want that to show. So what you can do is, so let's say we want it to be blank until they fill this out. I think that would be the easiest thing. That would also ensure that people aren't just putting in like one or two things and then just using that. Also, the way that our thing is built, our URL builder is built, is that if you only put in the URL and the source, it's going to have this, and then it's going to have this junk at the end with nothing. I'm not exactly sure if that will mess it up. I think that would mess up your analytics, and you don't want to do that. So let's say these 5 are essential. You make these essential to every person on your team. They have to have something in there to fill out. So what we can do is we can use a new formula called if. And what that means is, how that works, we'll show you actually the summary here. So if is a formula where you can say if blah, blah, blah is blah, 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 or whatever. If that is true, if that is a true statement, then do this. If it is a false statement, then do this. So what we can do is say if UTM turn, so if UTM turn equals blank, and you can designate blank by doing 2 quotation marks. So it's a string with nothing in it. So if that is true, we're going to say don't show anything, so show blank. If it is false, which means that there's a value in there, we'll have it do the whole formula. And let's drag this down so we can get rid of this ugliness here. So now it's blank. Inside the cell, you can see up here that there's definitely a formula in there, but it's going to appear blank. And that means they can't copy the URL. So they have to fill it out. So they can't just do that. They can't just do that. They got to do the whole thing. And then when they're in compliance, basically, now they get their link. So that makes it a little bit more foolproof and keeps your data more consistent, that something is happening or needs to happen there. And you can even go another step and put in an owner. So this is helpful for if something goes wrong and you want to find out who built a certain link or whatever, you can have the owner there, and that helps. What can get complicated is stuff for like the content. So we're going to do something wild here. We're going to make this a bit more complicated and a bit easier at the same time. Complicated for us, but easier for the user. So I just added in 2 new columns. And these are going to be columns that are not going to be parameters, but they're going to help build the parameter for UTM content. So let's say media type. We're going to combine media type, so image or video. And then we're going to add in, let's say, topic. Okay, it's doing validation for that. Let's remove the validation there. Data validation, remove. So for instance, the topic here is a feature, and this will be video. And so what we want to do is make the media types easy to select, the topics easy to select. And so there's more mix and matching that you can do, and in the end, there will be less manual work for you to do to maintain this spreadsheet. So topic, media type. So we'll have videos, we'll have images. It could just be text. GIF could be one. So let's just copy this, put that into media. This could be feature. Obviously you can name it more specific or whatever you want based on your organization. So it could be like feature. It could be, let's say you're promoting content. So you could do like top of, or you don't want to type out the whole thing. So top of funnel content, middle of funnel content, bottom of funnel content, I don't know, whatever you want. So we'll put that into topic. Let's just set up the new data validation. Oops. Boom. So now we need to change this to a formula. And we're gonna have to concatenate these two into this. So we can say add this, and we want the dash in there. So we'll do quotation mark, dash, quotation mark, so that we're not minusing. It doesn't think we're doing a minus. And in there, oops. And I should say, and this. There was a problem. Yes, there was a problem. Let me press the C. And then now we have future video. Drag that one down. So UTM content, it doesn't make sense to have validation here anymore. So we can actually just remove validation here. So it's not like we're going to add in all the combinations. As long as the validation is in place for the topic and the media, the inputs, then we'll be okay. So let's just delete this column. I'm pretty sure term will still, even though we changed the column for the data validation, I'm sure it's still going to work. Yeah, it does work still. So it includes a dash here because these are blank, which is interesting because whenever you have a formula in a spreadsheet and it's blank, except in this case, I guess, I usually like to designate that cell is blank on purpose with a 0 if it's a number, or a dash if it's a percent or a string or whatever. In this case, I think it's fine to leave that blank, but what we want to do, make this a bit nicer, is we don't want the dash in there if it's just one topic or if it's just the media. So we'll start with this one, and we'll do another if formula. So we'll say if F6, shoot, we'll just do a column here. So we'll say if F6 equals blank, then we'll just want to show, let's say we want everyone on our team to use UTM content in this exact format. So they have to have a topic and a media type. So we'll just do the same thing that we did for the trackable URL and not show anything unless both are filled out. So what we can say is this didn't work. So we said if F6 equals blank, show blank, and if not, then show the whole thing. We need to do the formula to say that if one of these are blank, if either or of these are blank, then show that. The simplest way that I know is to say you can stack these formulas, right? So you can say if F6 equals blank, then check if F6 equals blank, show nothing. If F6 is not blank, then check G6, and if that is blank, show nothing, and if not, which means both of them are not blank, then show the formula and combine them. So after the comma, we can do if G6 equals blank, then show blank, or do the calculation. Now, okay, that didn't work. So if F6 is blank, F6 is not blank, so it's going to do this. And if G6 is blank, do that. And if not blank, do F6. Why is it showing false? If not blank, do that. Oh, I need to put blank here. There we go. So let's look at this one. When you're stacking formulas, it can get kind of complicated. Usually when it gets above 4 formulas in one, I like to write them all out separately and then combine them. So let's just run through this one really quick. So what this is saying is we're starting with an if. So we're saying logical expression here. This is the statement that we're seeing if it's true or not. So F6 equals blank. If true, true is the second step. If true, put blank. If it's false, do this. And it's not saying put in a string or whatever. It's saying do another if statement. So if F6 equals blank, put blank. If F6 is not blank, then check if G6 equals blank. And if that is blank, then put blank. And if G6 is not blank, then do the formula. So this is how we say if F6 or G6 is blank, then put blank and don't show anything. But if both of them are filled out, then it's going to do the formula every time. And because we're using relative references here, we can just drag this up. This little handle, this little plus sign when you highlight this bottom corner allows you to drag formulas across. So what I could do is drag this all the way down. But a little trick you can do is highlight the cell that you have, Command Shift down. It goes down to the last cell that has a value in it. You can just go all the way down and hit Command D, and that will fill in all the cells here with the formula. And I'm just clicking a random row here, 978. And you can see in here that the formula is now referencing the same rows right here, even though we just dragged it down, and it's because we're using relative references that just say check 2 columns over or check 1 column over, which makes it really nice. So don't scroll back up, no reason. Just click a cell, Command up as a shortcut, and you get right back to the top. Typically, you don't want to use your mouse for navigation. It's so slow. Just hit Command down, Command Shift, Command over, and all that stuff, and it's much, much easier. So now we have feature, it is blank, which is right. Feature, video, boom. Let's say we only have a media, it's going to be blank. All right, if we add in that, there that is. Let's see how our formula is doing here. Let's fill in one of these. So I guess I do have to make this bigger. All right, so we have feature, in this one, we have feature dash images, right? So this formula, even though we added in 2 columns over, it's still referencing the right column here, H now. It's not looking at F and G, which is great. Oh, we didn't put in our and thing here, right? Or if. All right, so we can drag this up and just make that consistent. Oops, too far. Boom. All right. So we're getting to 48 minutes now. What we could do is we could go a bit further with these if blank statements, and you can actually make it so it checks every single one. So if it can say if landing page is blank, don't put anything. If UTM source is blank, to put anything, or if medium is blank, don't put anything, or if campaign is blank, to put, and so on. Which would mean that everything has to be filled out in order for the URL to show. Right now, we just did kind of like a shortcut where it's just the last one, which is a problem, as you can see. You know what, let's just do that really quick and we can see how that goes. All right. So now we're going to start nesting a lot of if statements here. So we're checking if I9 is blank already, then do blank. Let's start with, let's work backwards here a little bit, and let's start with if URL is blank. If B9 equals blank, then be blank. And if not blank, check I9. If I9 is blank, so we'll need to do another if statement here. All right, so we'll start there and see what happens. So even though I is filled out now, even though term's filled out, it's still blank. And you can also use the fill handle to just copy. So if everything is the same, it's basically just filling in the rest of the things. And you can even go back up to erase too. Oh no, you can't, that's Excel only. Whatever. So you can see that if the URL is blank, it's not going to show anything. If this and this is filled out, then it's going to show. So we have kind of an issue here if someone were to for some reason do that. Don't put it past your team to do that, or to not do that. Just make it as easy as possible. So let's just go through real quick and just put in the rest of these things here. So we can say if TM source equals blank, put blank, and if not, we'll do if campaign equals blank, do blank, and if not, we'll say if content equals blank, do blank, and if not, if I9, which we already have, is blank, do blank, there will be more closing parentheses here, but Google will automatically add them for us. See how it added a bunch there? So I think we're good to go. So that's a lot of if statements, but now it's pretty much foolproof, right? If something is missing in here, so let's leave medium blank and see what happens. Then it's not going to show, meaning that every single thing, boom, has to be filled out or it's not going to work. So let's drag this one up here. And then this one above us is blank because content's not filled out. And to get content to fill out, we need to get video in there. Boom. And so we can drag this down by clicking on the cell, Command Shift down, and it stopped there because it looks blank, but it stopped there because this is the last cell with the formula in it, and then here is blank, so it'll stop there. So Command Shift down again to select everything beyond, and then Command B, and that fills it in. So if we were to go into a random row right here for some reason and fill it in, it's going to work. So there's no maintenance here now. So the only maintenance you would need is to add in more things here. And because you selected data validation for so many different things down there, you don't ever have to edit the formulas that you put in. So let's just say we did 26 for whatever reason. They're all going to be in there. And it's just foolproof now. Coming up on the hour mark, I didn't expect this to be a whole hour long. Kind of went over a lot of things I wanted to cover. I mean, there's not a lot of Excel stuff, new Excel stuff here. But I think we did cover pretty well for a basics video. And as we get into more complicated sheets, we'll get into more complicated videos. But there's one more thing I wanted to show you. And I like doing this a lot just because it adds a little extra protection, just in case someone thinks they're clever and wants to try to change something. I'm just kidding. It's more so to prevent accidents. But what you can do is you can protect a sheet, or you can protect a range from anyone from editing it if you don't want anyone to edit it. So if you go to Data, Protect Sheets and Ranges, you can say, protect this range. You can name it if you want, formula range. I don't know. You don't really need to, but you can set permissions. And you can say, yes, I only want myself to edit this. And so now if your coworker comes in and accidentally deletes something and can't get it back, that's not going to happen with this because they're not going to be able to edit it. So again, it just makes it more bulletproof. It makes it more solid, easier to use for everyone. Another thing I like to do is just delete empty columns. So Command Shift to the right, and then just delete these extra columns. And now it's not like you can't scroll too far. Just makes it, a little bit more polished and easier to use. Let's see, you can even do, if someone's really confused, because your coworkers will be really confused about a lot of things. Just kidding. You can put in required. And just so they know that, why isn't it working? Oh, it's because all of these fields are required. You can make the text color a little bit nicer, a little bit more hidden blue, so it's not so in your face, but you can see that now they'll know why it's not spitting out. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's a good stopping point. We're just shy of the 1 hour mark. I hope this video was useful for you. I would love to hear what more you want to see, what you want to see next. If you're on the marketing subreddit, leave a comment there. I'll check and reply to everyone. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment on YouTube. If you're on your blog or on the blog, leave a comment on the blog. And let's build more of this stuff. I love using Google Sheets. I use Google Sheets because it's collaborative. Everyone can use it on your team. There's a lot of like advanced things on Excel that you can't do on Google Sheets, like modeling and solving and stuff like that. But we don't have to get into that. I like using Google Sheets just because I like making dashboards for a lot of different people to use, and it's one way for a lot of people to be on the same page. And so Google Sheets is just the best thing because it's just in your browser. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there. And feel free to check out Chili Piper if you don't know who we are. If you're on the marketing subreddit, again, we would love for you to check us out. There's probably a link at the bottom of the post. Just you can go there and check us out if you want. If not, it's fine too. But yeah, leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see next time. And I'm excited to make more of these videos. I'll see you later.